The Haunted Texas series is taking over Talk About the Hill Country. We will be here every weekday morning from October 21st to October 31st. If you miss a story, hear it on Halloween night starting at 6 p.m. The broadcast is being carried on KNAF AM 910 and KFAN 107.9 Texas Rebel Radio. Our sponsor is the Mason County Historical Society. These eerie, sometimes gory, and always fascinating haunted Texas tales are being brought to us by historians and educators from the Texas Historical Commission, the Texian Blog, and the Texas Center at Schreiner University. These Texas tales are true to life and death, so listener discretion is advised. Now settle back and enjoy HC Broadcasting's presentation of Haunted Texas.
Howdy, y'all. Ben the Texian here. I work at the Texas Center at Schreiner University, but Texas isn't only my job, it's my hobby, which makes it the perfect job for me. One of my hobbies wrapped up in my love of Texas is collecting Texas folklore, and some of that folklore, of course, are ghost stories. And since we are in the midst of spooky season, I'll be sharing one of those stories with y'all today. Stampede Mesa. A little northwest of Lubbock in Crosby County, not too far off Highway 82, lies Blanco Canyon Reservoir, a dammed-up portion of the White, or Blanco River. Blanco Canyon is steeped in the history of the plains. Here, Coronado made camp on his wanderings across the American Southwest. Here, Ronald Mackenzie fought a major battle against the Comanche. Here, the first permanent settlement of Anglo pioneers in the wilds of West Texas sunk in their roots in 1877. There is great potential here for all sorts of interesting spiritual encounters. And indeed, I'm sure, if you spent a moonlit night out there, as the eternal West Texas wind moaned all about you, you'd feel more than a few chills rush up your spine. But none of these events are the subject of my tale today, for there is another site of historical interest very near Blanco Canyon Reservoir. In fact, it, in a sense, overhangs it. It's been known for almost 150 years as Stampede Mesa. It once overlooked the White River, but ever since the 1960s and the building of the reservoir, it's actually poked right into it. And ranchers through the region make a wide circle to avoid camping their cattle there for the night. John R. Craddock, in the book The Best of Texas Folk and Folklore, published by the Texas Folklore Society, first put the story to print. But the story had already been told over and over in the flickering glow of campfires along the lonely trails of long-vanished cattle drives in a more remote and mythic Texas. When the first ranchers began to drive their cattle through the area, the spot was actually seen as quite a great place to herd your cattle together for the night. The White River provided plenty of water for the thirsty bovines, and the cowboys would drive them up the gently sloping mesa, letting the steep cliffs create a fence line on three sides. Then the cowboys would bunk down at the south end, thus blocking off any escape for the more independent-thinking animals. Ranchers of the area believed it to be one of the most perfect natural corrals in existence. That is, until the fall of 1889. As fall fell cool and crisp on the West Texas plains, an old cowhand named Old Sawyer came through the region with a herd of about 1,500 head. The trail had been a hard one for most of that day, and he and his cowboys were bone tired. Their insides were dusty, and they were very much looking forward to the cool refreshment of White River and a long rest. As the herd made its way across an area known then as Dockham Flats, about 6 or 7 miles east of the mesa, a much smaller herd of cattle, maybe 40 head or so, came out of nowhere. Seeing the larger herd, these newcomers did what cattle do. They followed the leader, and soon they were mixed in with the rest of the massive herd. These new additions are called nesters in cowman lingo. Not too long after that came their owner. He was rather put out that his beasts were impossibly intermixed with the much larger herd now. Making his way through the thick clouds of dust, choking on dirt in his own fury, the Nester cowboy finally rode up alongside old Sawyer and demanded they stop right there and cut his herd out of Sawyer's herd. Old Sawyer, with a natural disposition as leathery as his tanned hide, was in a foul humor already. He was riding short-handed. He had no energy to put up with this little bully shenanigans, and he didn't want to worry his cattle any more than they needed to be. They were stressed enough as it is. He told the Nester to go to hell and rode on ahead. But the Nester would have none of it. A bully he may have been, but he had some nerve. He rode after old Sawyer and threatened the cowboy that if he didn't cut his animals out of the main herd before dark, he'd stampede them all. Old Sawyer coughed up dirt and bile as he laughed at this man's huevos. He had grit. Then Sawyer, calmly, pulled out his gun and pointed it right at the Nester's forehead. "Vamonos," is all he said. The Nester took the hint and rode away, seething inside and planning his revenge. It took the rest of the evening and well into the night before the herd was watered at the river and then bedded down for the night on the mesa. It was midnight when peace finally settled over the scene. The wind blew softly and ceaselessly. The crickets scraped their legs together. The vast cosmos of stars floated slowly above the herd in the eternal dance of the universe. The full moon bathed all in its silver glow. Old Sawyer and his few cowboys let sleep overtake their weary minds and bodies. So deep into oblivion they did not hear the Nester creeping towards the camp. He sneaked past the sleeping night watch, getting as close as possible to the sleeping cattle. The psychopath grinned, took a deep breath, and let out a blood-curdling howl, firing his shotgun in the air. He wailed and hooted and roared as he flopped a nearby blanket at the terrified cattle. They stampeded in the opposite direction, straight towards the peak of the mesa. Before he could be tackled by the cowboys, he fired off another shot, urging the stampeded cattle on over the edge of the mesa into the darkness, plummeting 200 feet through the night into the river below. Two of the cowboys, mixed up in the stampede, desperately trying to circle the maddened beasts to bring them back from the edge, instead were forced over the edge, along with a thunderous hurricane of hooves and horns. The next morning dawned to a god-awful sight. The majority of the herd now lay at the base of the mesa, their bodies one great mass of dead and dying animals. The weak noises of the barely living beasts drifted up to the mesa, bellows of agony, contorted limbs and horns all twisted together in a great horrific jumble of death. The cowboys forced over the edge were nowhere to be seen, buried somewhere beneath that pile. Old Sawyer's tears for his dead compadres turned to steely hate as he had the Nester brought to him. He had the quaking man tied up with a rawhide lariat. He knocked him to the ground, and then, without saying a word, dragged the Nester to the edge of the mesa, and with a sharp kick sent him over the side. The scream of the Nester seemed to echo long after he hit the remains of the herd he had destroyed, his body pierced by horns, his body torn to pieces, as broken cattle rolled over him in their death agonies. The cowboys took the remnant of their herd, which ironically included all of the Nester's cattle that he had been so murderous about reclaiming. The little herd now belonged to old Sawyer. The cowboys also managed to finally find the remains of their two brothers of the saddle and buried them in a humble ceremony near the mesa. They left the remains of the Nester to rot, along with the hundreds of cattle now damming up the White River. Such a sight of catastrophic death is always the haunt of spirits in the years after, and what was now called Stampede Mesa quickly became a place shunned by all the local cowboys and ranchers. The bodies befouled the river and made it impossible to drink from its cool shores for a long time. Bones bleached in the sun, broke, and mingled with the dirt around the mesa. These bones were seen even up into the late 1950s, just before a new dam filled the place of death with water and buried it beneath Blanco Canyon Reservoir. But even after the waters covered the mass grave of the cattle herd, cattlemen refrained from taking their herds near the place. For at night, you could still sometimes hear the lowing of cattle from the empty mesa, or the cattle that you took there could hear them, and would begin their own stampede for seemingly no reason, but they sensed something terrible had taken place there, the way animals can sense an earthquake, and they always try to get out of there as quickly as possible. Some cowboys have even claimed that they saw the nester. Damned forever to ride along with his victims, being pulled along, tumbling over and under them, mouth wailing with the wind, their souls rimmed by the fiery sunset in the sky as the summer thunderheads erupt over the plains, a crimson banner of destruction fluttering in the evening. Whatever the tales told, Stampede Mesa still lies a haunted place, alone, a sort of headstone for the mythic days of Texas cowboys, fading further and further away into the fog of the past. Pleasant dreams.
Attention Hill Country residents. Join the Mason County Historical Society for our annual meeting on November 22nd at 6 p.m. in the Stribley Room of the Mason Library. This year, we're thrilled to welcome geologist Brian Hunt from UT Austin, who will take us on a fascinating journey through the geology of Mason County. Discover how our landscape evolved from ancient seas to the era of dinosaurs and even mammoths. Bring your rock samples for identification and enjoy refreshments as we delve into our local history together. Everyone's welcome, no membership required. For more information, visit us on Facebook or at masonmuseums.org. Let's find out together what's under our feet. Don't miss this enriching experience with your community. This has been a special presentation by HC Broadcasting, our Haunted Texas series for the Halloween season. First, thank you to our presenters, Ben Freiberg of the Texian Blog and the Texas Center at Schreiner University, and Shannon Smith of the Texas Historical Commission and Fort Martin Scott. A huge shout out to our sponsor, the Mason County Historical Society. If you love local Texas history, be sure to participate in the Mason County Historical Society's annual meeting on November 22nd at 6. It'll be held at the Stribbling Room in the Mason County Library. Find out what's under your feet, geologically speaking. Check out their website at masonsmuseum.org. Want to get on the regular calendar for Talk About the Hill Country? Call 830-997-2197, email knafnews@gmail.com, mail to P.O. Box 311 in Fredericksburg, or stop by the studio at 304 East San Antonio Street. Hope you enjoyed your Haunted Texas.